Don't take this too sharply, but choosing a high school based on its soccer team is like choosing a hospital based on its food.
Other than Gemara and Midos, are there any other high-level factors like yichus, money, siblings?
No.
Any other
that's a great
factors besides learning and Midos?
Welcome to the Learning Curve podcast, brought to you by Mishpacha magazine.
We're raising children in a changing and challenging world.
So let's tackle the important issues facing frum families today.
I'm Rabbi Garfield, Manal of Yeshiva Torah's MS in Houston, and I love talking about chinuch.
I'm Rabbi Ari Schonfeld, Manal Yeshiva Katana of Manhattan, director of Camp Aish. I also love talking chinuch and sometimes fishing.
Join us as we answer your questions and discuss the topics that matter to parents the most.
And welcome back to another episode. Baruch Hashem, Rabbi Garfield. This has been a blast. It continues to be a blast. Our last episode, Dr. Mandelman, was inspiring. My voice, Baruch Hashem, is a little better now than it was then. And how are you?
Baruch Hashem, yeah, great.
Onward we move. The big topic today, the topic of picking and working to try to figure out the right way to choose a Mesivta and a high school for your son, is maybe a topic that I personally will talk about, have been invested in for a long time. But that is our big question. We start with smaller ones. So I'll read you one, and then you'll go back with me. And here we go. Ready, Rabbi? Here we go.
Sure, let's do it.
Dear TLC, my husband and I feel very strongly that our 9-year-old daughter should skip 4th grade. I think it would help her socially. And academically, she's strong enough to handle skipping. Obviously, I guess that's the opinion of the parents. We met with the school administration who felt otherwise and is refusing our request. I am sure you've both dealt with this in the past. When it comes to holding back or pushing ahead, what role do you think is appropriate for the school to play versus the parent? And whose decision ultimately should it be? Anyone who's been a manal has obviously dealt with this. What's the Houston bylaws are in your yeshiva?
So this is surprisingly a very, very serious issue in the sense that when I first started in my role, this came up early on, as it does almost every year. And I called a very experienced manal friend, mentor, Rabbi Yeshua Levi at Torah Masara. I told him what was going on. He's like, Yerachmiel, I made a mistake early in my career with this, and it's like a major issue. Don't think that you could just have a conversation and give some advice. And
which way was yours, skipping or holding back?
They were asking to skip, and I was hesitant. Right. And I was talking through it. Like, what do you do if the school's hesitant and the parents are strong? Like, It's a hard situation. And I thought, as a young, naive principal, that I could just say my opinion, all my wisdom, and lay down the law.
How dare you?
Right. And Rabbi Levi was like, not so simple. So he gave me some great advice. And as a result of that, we then developed a system. I'll tell you what it is, but I don't think that we should be mandating, not even mandating is the wrong word. I don't think we should be making suggestions for anyone else. I'm just talking about me and my experience. And obviously every school, every environment, every manal has to do what works for them. And this might not work for them. And I'm not here to say this is the model, but this has worked for us. And I think it speaks to the necessary partnership that exists around this issue and the emotion. I mean, there is nothing. That's what I believe it was explained to me. And I have learned both the hard way and the less hard way, that this is an extremely emotional, strong issue. And parents carry it forever and feel it. And it could be really something they carry forever, really. So
it sounds like there's something you want to say.
It's a very, what I'm saying is...
No, what I mean, it sounds like you've had a story. That's what it sounds like.
Oh, yeah, I've had 15 stories. What do you mean? Every time it's a story. Because if the school doesn't think it's a good idea, and the parents do, you are in a very serious situation. That's, I guess, what Rabbi Levi was telling me. This is not a klein azach. So what we did was we developed something based on the Iowa Acceleration Scale. The University of Iowa, I don't know why this is their thing. You could look it up, but they are into the word acceleration means skipping a grade in academic parlance. And so they developed this thing. It's like a 9-point scale that measures all sorts of aspects of the child. And their point is that it's not just a single dimension academics, right?
Of course.
They say there's a million different factors that could, not a million, but 9 or 10, that could impact the child. So what we did was the following. We took that IO acceleration scale, picked 3 or 4 domains. We didn't do all 9, primarily academic, social, and then emotional development. And then we survey if a parent requests, to skip, and then we survey relevant faculty that have connection to the child. And we ask these questions relative to the other kids. Where do you see this child? If they score strong on all 3, the school would recommend that the child skip. Like we would agree. If they're socially, emotionally, academically advanced, and the parents want them to, assuming we have room in the class, we would do. But if they don't score on all 3, it's easy if they score in 1, but in 2, there's a little judgment. We'll have a meeting and discuss it. Bottom line is, we would say, listen, we did our work. We looked into it. We gave it a fair shot. We don't think it's good. Now what happens? Get ready.
And the parents say, but we think otherwise, right?
Exactly. So I'm ready for the drum roll.
Yeah.
What we do is we allow the parents to hire an outside professional who we agree on, psychologist. We had one fellow who made Aliyah. So we have another person now. It's not cheap and it's not easy, depending on what they feel they need to do in terms of evaluation, but it could cost $1,000,
Right.
And we are committed to following that professional's advice.
Wow.
Now, generally what happens is the parents either realize that, that professional is just going to say what the school said and they're out $1,000, they don't want to do it, or they do it. People have done it. And for me, I could sleep at night because I feel as a mechanech, I'm achroi for the future of this child. And by the way, we should mention that even if a kid who's, a 4th grader, looks a certain way, it's very different when they're 11th grade and 12th grade and the kids are going to seminary and they're not ready. I mean, this is really something that impacts a child's life in a way that parents sometimes don't have the perspective, especially if it's their older child, which is often where this stuff goes down. Right. So anyway, but because I have this outside professional who is taking a crisis and I trust them, obviously we get someone who we trust, I'm able to sleep at night. I put it on them and Shalom Yisrael. So like I said, in my career here, there have been 1 or 2 times where we have been overridden by a professional. It's hard to know if it worked or not. It's really, really hard to evaluate because do the children never have problems? Yeah. Is it related? Maturity, development? I don't know. But that's how we do it. And I feel like it's a good pshar because we're telling parents, listen, we have a process that's based on research. I think we do it in a fair way. If we feel it doesn't work, we're very open, transparent about the whole thing. It's even written up on a document. And then we allow for an outside professional. So how angry can you get, at that point? So anyway, that's what I have to say. That's what we do here. And Baruch Hashem, it does work.
It sounds like you have real experience in this and professional experience and a real protocol.
That's how we roll, Rabbi Schonfeld. Wow. You seem surprised. Have I not proven myself?
I've got to say, nothing you said surprised me in that couple of minutes. The one thing that I would add a little bit of, and I've dealt with this as a parent. I've dealt with this from a manal, from both sides, skipping and holding back. To generalize, and maybe to speak in layman's terms on what you were saying, I think that in both cases, in other words, I'll say it like this, to skip, the parent has to prove that the kid can skip. And to hold back, the school has to prove that the kid should be held back. It's almost like a moitzi mechevel of a raya. If a parent comes to the school and says, we want to skip, then the parent has to overwhelm the school in that skipping is a good idea. And if the school goes to the parent and says, we feel it's appropriate for your son or daughter to be held back, the school has to overwhelm the parent in convincing them that that's the right move. Because obviously, to move in a different direction than the grade the child is supposed to be in is a big move. And I think generally, it doesn't work unless both sides agree. A parent says, I want to skip. And the school says, even with the Iowa exams. Acceleration. But you don't know the social dynamic of the class that is the year above you, right? And there's things that go on in our school that you might not be privy to. I think a school has the ability to say, I hear, but we who see your child and see the rebbeim and see lunch and recess don't think it will work. And I think the other way too, when it's holding back and the school really feels that the kid should be held back, I think the parents have to be partners. Otherwise, everything you do, the parents will be upset. And it goes both ways in terms of success. It's not always when you jump ahead of the kid's successful. It's not always when you hold back. I held back my son when he was 4. So because, he had the Schonfeld gene of being not so tall. Baruch Hashem, we thought that was the right thing. But yeah, you handled that well, Rabbi Garfield.
Thank you. I will add that I think parents suspect schools of being somehow sinister or like hiding their motivation.
Right.
But the reality is that if you talk to real mechanchim who've been in the field, Jews and non-Jews, just general educators, it is a risky thing and it should be dealt with great caution because parents are quick to say, my kid's bored. I mean, boredom is part of life. And generally, if the kid is such a genius, he'll be bored or she'll be bored in the next grade too. Because the difference in academics isn't like huge. And if the kid is gifted in that way, you know, and then you end up with all the secondary issues. And like one of the people we work with here is a big expert in this, has told me like a skill for smart people is dealing with boredom. It's a skill in life. I wouldn't know. We'd have to ask one of the Schonfelds. But I've been told that smart people have a hard time suffering fools. And that's an important skill in life. Again, I'm not saying it's never appropriate.
I don't know. This conversation is boring me. This conversation is
Isn't that hard? You're stuck with me, you know? It's hard, man. You got to just put up with it. It's hard. But anyway, it's like imagine a ball player to make a mushal for you, Rabbi, who is bad, who's on your team. Like, that's just your team. So if you shut down and act like a lunatic, I can't play with this guy, right? You know, that's not going to get you far in life. You got to be able to.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
So, you know, there's that too. It's a complicated issue and it should be dealt with great care. And it requires a lot of thought and shikol das. Okay, let's move on. We could probably have a whole podcast on that topic, but I
think we almost just did. Yeah.
That was a lot. All right, we're going back to this writer, one of our wonderful listeners, brought back a previous topic that she felt we did not finish. So I would like to read you the question and finish it off, I guess, I hope. Dear TLC, one of your early episodes, you dealt with the importance of putting your rebbeim on a pedestal.
You said it right.
Thank you. I'm learning. Thank you. Baruch Hashem, I have good partners who set me straight. Okay. Anyway, you also discussed what the proper Torah hashkafa is on the sensitive topic of Esav son of Yaakov. Kudos for that. But I have not heard from either of you as to what to do in a scenario in which the Rebbe or the school says things that you find fundamentally against your beliefs. Here are some hot button topics, but it could be any. For example, we talked about the Goyim, the army in Israel, American politics, Chabad College. I don't think calling the school will make a difference. So how do I balance respecting my child's teachers with maintaining our family's individual viewpoint?
Ooh, I happen to like that question.
Thank God we don't have to unpack each of those things because that would not work.
No, we were not going to discuss Yom Ha'atzmaut, the army in Israel, American politics, Chabad College. No, we actually will not discuss any of them. How's that? I'm not sure why some of those are considered controversial, but fine. So as often, the first starting point is how old is your child? In other words, I do think that a yeshiva, young elementary yeshiva, none of these topics should be coming up. The Rebbeim should not be having hashkafik and moras conversations about Zionism with a third grader. It shouldn't be happening. Now, there is a school hashkafa. So there's differences. In other words, does the yeshiva say, Hallel Yom Ha'atzmaut? Let's have a fun conversation, right? Or did the yeshiva go to the rally in Washington after October 7th? But those are not Rebbeim. That's just, I'm in a yeshiva, and not always does yeshiva agree with my hashkafa. So it could be softer, the conversation. We could almost take it there. But when the child is younger, there really isn't a place, and it's unnecessary and I think inappropriate for Rebbeim and Moras to discuss things that are just not relevant to that child. In Mesivta, this is a very big sugya. And you get to 7th and 8th grade maybe. But when this happens, and it invariably will to a lot of parents, it's happened to me with my children's yeshivas. I think
our listeners are wondering, what was the issue? But we'll let you go. Continue.
I think that we have to be strong enough. Life is gray and not black and white. And children, we discuss this a lot, right? The children think in black and white, so it's a little tricky. So it's very hard to have this nuance. But I think it's okay for a parent to tell a son that that's not our hashkafa. I think it's okay to say that there are different hashkafas HaTorah and that we don't believe in that. Your Rebbe could, and you have to, again, be sensitive to the fact that you can't destroy the Rebbe or the Mora, because then your child's going to lose that ability to sit in that shir and to steig from that person. But our hashkafa is different. There are Hasidim, there are Misnagdim, there are Svardim, there are Litvaks. There are those that are pro-Zionist and anti-Zionist. And our hashkafa is different, and it's okay. As long as it's not personal. And as long as you're able to maintain a real derech eretz, I think really is the word, a derech eretz for the Rebbe when talking, then, and you point to gedolim that are on your side, it shouldn't petrify you to sit down with your 15-year-old daughter or son and say, I hear what your Rebbe is saying, but that's not our hashkafa. And Zaidi didn't do that. And, and my Rosh Yeshiva held differently. I think it's okay. I don't think that's scary.
I hear you. I'm really torn on it because I hear what you're saying and it's very reasonable. At the same time, if a Talmud goes into, let's say, a 9th, 10th grade, and the message from home is, our hashkafas are different than your Rebbe in fundamentals. That means when the Rebbe gives his shmooze on Friday and he likes to throw in his stuff.
Define fundamentals. Define the word fundamentals.
I don't know. Israel. That's pretty fundamental.
It is?
I think so. In our world today, with the amount that we talk about Israel, I mean, Israel's a major part of our chinuch, right? In your school this year, Israel wasn't a big deal. Tehillim, army, soldiers, rallies. Israel's a big deal, right? So that's a fundamental. Let's say the Rebbe makes fun of it, right? He's on the right.
He's against the rally. Let's go there. Ready?
Against the rally.
There we go.
Not only was he against the rally, but he was quoting his Rebbeim. I'm not quoting anyone specific who said, what's the worst thing that was said about it? It was
Yad Val Yaver.
Yad Val Yaver.
There you go. And you went to the rally. So now what?
Not only did you go, you went with your father, your uncle, and your grandfather,
right, who
were wearing Israeli flag. And when you were going, you were explained by your parents how chashuv this is. And it's hard, I think.
It's hard. Now what?
To learn from that Rebbe, maybe. I don't know. I hear it's a Shilas Chacham.
No, but that to me is a perfect example. But without getting involved of whatever our opinion is about these issues, because that is not the rule of us on this podcast. But in a case where a family goes to the rally in Washington and the yeshiva rails against the rally, that's an issue that you're going to ignore it? You're going to ignore that sugya? What are you going to tell your son? Your son said, my Rebbe said he shouldn't go. And he quoted from his Rosh Yeshiva, said he shouldn't go.
Honestly, if I was the father, I wouldn't take my kid in that case.
No, he didn't go. Your kid didn't go. I wouldn't take my kid either.
I thought in the muscle, we were saying the kid went with his father and his...
No. That's a separate. Should you pull your kid out of yeshiva?
Maybe the message should be, I don't know. But maybe the message should be, you're in that yeshiva, you're learning by that Rebbe, and for now, I want you to hear his message. It's not the only message, but he's a wise man, your Rebbe, and what he's saying is worth listening to. I don't know, because it's very hard, again, to say about fundamentals that guy's a lightweight in terms of hashkafa to you, but yet when it comes to other things, or even hashkafic things that are important, you're sort of undermining his kayach.
Yeah, it's a slippery slope, but I think, agreed, but I think that you have an achrayus as a parent to do both. I think it's okay for you to tell your son, to build up your son's Rebbe in his eyes. It really comes from how you speak at the Shabbos table about Rabbanim, about Gedolim, about Rosh Yeshivas, about Rebbeim. And it's not going to start when your son's in 9th and 10th grade. But if your son understands your chashivas you have for Das Torah, for Emunas Chachamim, and for his Rebbeim, then it's okay that there's a machlekes. Hashkafa, there was a big machlekes amongst the Gedolim about the rally. So it's okay if there's a machlekes. Your Rebbe thinks this. Our opinion is very strongly that. So I think it's okay as long as, and this is right, it never starts today, as long as you have that consistent, real derech eretz for Rebbeim and for your son's manhigim, then it's okay to have a machlekes.
Maskim. I mean, I think that's where it comes down, and it's good we talked this out because I think it's clear now, at least for me, is that it's easy to have a slippery slope if you send your kids to a quote-unquote firmer yeshiva. It's very easy for there to develop in the home sort of a cynical attitude towards the whole thing. Because, what did he say this week? Like that kind of thing. Not that I've ever done that. Chas v'shalom. But I'm just saying as if that could happen. And that is a dangerous place to be, opposed to a lot of reverence, a lot of respect, a lot of genuine, praise about the Rebbeim Nanola, and then an occasional clarification, I think is a much healthier way to go. Beautiful. So we're on the same page.
And this week, we're going to be discussing and tackling a conversation, a sugya, that is anyone that has boys that are entering 8th grade, and the Mesivta topic of choosing the right high school for your son is maybe one of the last choices you'll be able to make as a parent. Right. But definitely one of the most important. And we hope to move on, Mr. Hashem, in an upcoming episode to discuss the seminary sugya, which maybe is even more daunting of a task. But there's a lot of layers in the Mesivta world of choosing the Mesivta, and it's probably apropos, Rabbi, that you're out of town, which means I know there's a wonderful new Mesivta in Houston, but it also means that the out-of-town choice is something that you have to embrace maybe more readily than we do. But there's two parts to this conversation we've heard from our listeners they want discussed. So I'm going to just take snippets from different emails to lay out the two issues. And then after we'll discuss it a little bit, we have the schus of bringing in a Manal from Lakewood, Rabbi Yaakov Bogart, the Manal of Touchbar, will join us soon. So here we go.
I think we're going to get a lot of perspectives here because you were in Passaic as 8th grade Rebbe, which, Passaic doesn't have one Mesivta. It has a whole bunch, and you have the whole Northeast really open to you. And then I actually was 9th grade Rebbe in Atlanta before I came to Houston and was part of the founding of a Mesivta there for the kids there. As being the 9th grade Rebbe and assistant Manal, there was this constant discussion. Do we stay? Do we go? It was my whole job was to have that conversation. And then here in Houston, we only started the Mesivta 4 years ago.
Right.
And so for the first bunch of years I was here, we had to send the kids away.
Correct.
So I've been discussing this topic my whole career, basically.
Yes,
and I know you also have been.
Yeah, and I have the schus of being part of an organization in Passaic that helps out grushos and almanos in various aspects of life, gashmias and ruchnias. So I'm not sure what you want, the liaison, that if mothers who don't have a husband to help them navigate the sugya of high school, they come meet with me with their son. Some of them I know, some of them I don't know.
Just in Passaic? These are Passaic families?
Passaic Clifton families.
Very nice. That's a beautiful idea. Does it have a name, the organization?
I don't know. I know the person who runs
great, beautiful. Israel's special place.
Beautiful. So here are the two emails and the two topics. So we'll lay it out and then we'll tackle one at a time. The first is, here at TLC, we are really on the fence on where to send our son to Mesivta. And we are looking for your guidance. Look at that. Looking for us guidance. I think they just want to hear the hashkafic. You obviously, we don't know their son. But they'll tell us a little bit. Our son's a great boy who wants to learn and do the right thing. He's middle of the class. I'm paraphrasing because it's a long email. He would probably do great in an out-of-town Mesivta with the structure and positive environment that it provides. But it's not home. Home gives the family warmth that no yeshiva can provide. Our fear with sending him to the place his friends are going to is that it is a sink or swim environment, and we are afraid for him to fall into the chevra of unmotivated kids. What do you recommend? The basic of this question is dorm versus non-dorm, out-of-town versus in-town. But the big colloquial question is, my son's going into 8th grade. He's my first. Let's even say I'm about tshuva. I didn't go to Long Beach, and therefore I'm automatically sending, right? If you're so lucky. What do I look for? What are the priorities? How scary is a dorm? These type of large topics. The second email, I'm going to throw them both out now, Rabbi Garfield. The second email, we actually read on the first episode. If you remember, we were much more timid back then. So
we were so young, Ari. We were
young and naive, and we said, we're ready to tackle this maybe on a future episode. So decades later, and this was about a parent who has a son in Mesivta who is struggling. That the Mesivta is much more, yeshivish, charevi, than he's comfortable with. What do you do with the fact that I want to send my son to Mesivta A, but the yeshiva's pushing Mesivta B, and I really want my son to end up getting a degree, but none of the local yeshivas offer that. I think...
Is the question that the boys are ready in the yeshiva?
So this parent happens to be frustrated because he has a boy in the yeshiva and then a boy also in 7th grade, and he saw what happened to his boys.
He's anticipating what's going to be. He doesn't like what's happening with his Mesivta boy, and he's like, what do I do with the next one to avoid that?
Correct. The hashkafa of the yeshiva doesn't jive necessarily with the parents, and what do they do with that? And to me, it's even deeper. We, as Manalim, what is our role in pushing, in suggesting yeshivas that maybe don't align with the hashkafas of the parents, but we feel it's the best place for that boy? What's our role versus the parents' roles? These are gigantic sugyas, the deep waters of Mesivta.
There's one thing I have to say. I just have to say, because I'm from Philadelphia. I grew up there, and I was very blessed to have a relationship with
you are from Philadelphia means you learned in Philadelphia? So
I learned in the yeshiva, but not as a student. But no, I'm not a Philadelphia boy, but I'm from Philadelphia.
Okay.
And those who know what we're talking about know what we're talking about. But I was very lucky that I have a very close relationship I had, and I have, Baruch Hashem, with Anhola there and the Rosh Hashivas and the Mishpachas. I'm a very fortunate young man. And because of that, I have to echo the very strong-held opinion of Zilzain Gesundsein, the Rosh Hashiva of Shmuel Kamenetsky, who I have heard speak to this topic multiple times with great resolve. And he says, you should keep your children home whenever possible, period. He has a yeshiva that has a dorm. Don't ask me these kashas. But he has said many a time that a person should keep their kids home, that it's healthy, assuming the home is reasonably healthy, that it's the best thing for the development of a child to be home with his family. Certainly, he never...
I have a different according from Reb Shmuel. How's that?
Yeah.
In which a parent asked Reb Shmuel, the kid got into Philly, and Reb Shmuel said, you're shtickle, right? Not to go to Philly because the parents have shown bias. And then the option was to send their kid to a dorm where the kid comes home every Shabbos. And the kid maybe comes home one day during the week, and one day during the week. And Reb Shmuel said it's the best of both worlds. That was Reb Shmuel's nusach.
Interesting.
That because you can get that ligging and learning by having that late night learning, maybe on Leil Mishma on Thursday night, and you could get away from whether it's the radio or the computer that maybe is in your house, and yet you still have the chinuch of the house. So it's not as black and white.
But there's a lot to unpack here, and certainly we want to get to our guest. I could just say the other piece is that we have to really do a real gut check. I'm blessed to have 4 boys, and I've been through this a number of times.
Same.
And it's very easy to allow other factors other than what's best for your kid to get into the equation. And, we have to be very thoughtful not to think about the covet of getting our kid into yeshiva X or Y at the expense of what...
You mean as a yeshiva or as a parent?
As a yeshiva, meaning, or, you know what? Also as a parent. Yeah. Actually, I was thinking as a parent more. I meant which yeshiva, but yeah, both. But I was thinking more of a parent, especially if it's their older, first or second kid, where they don't understand the significance fully. And it's like, yeshiva X or bust. And because of the status or whatever, the better kids or whatever that means are going there. It's a dangerous thought. It's a dangerous...
It's a challenge because the question that I get asked the most as a principal, like the random house, yeshiva doing, blah, blah, where are your kids going from Mesivta? That is the number one.
I mean, that's how they rate your school, you're saying?
Yeah, that's how they get a flavor, right? On your app, right? On your app that's coming out soon. On rating yeshivas, they rate it by where the boys go to Mesivta.
That's a good thing. I should have that. I didn't even have that as one of the measures.
And parents who come for interviews for the yeshiva, I get that question almost in every...
I think it's a fair question, don't you think?
It's a fair question, but I'm just adding to the...
Yeah, it adds a certain amount of... Right, it's true.
It's there. Yeah.
I would say the best answer is we send the Bachrim to the yeshivas that fit their needs the best, which range from yeshiva X to yeshiva Y. I don't know if you can get away with that. No, really, Rabbi. Yeah. Really.
Right. I do think that one of our jobs as principals, as Menalim, is to educate parents to decide Iker and Tuffle and to realize that when you decide what high school your son is going to, we all want a million things. We want our sons to become lamdanim, to be chachamim. Some parents want their son to also have the ability to become a doctor or become a lawyer and get an education. Then Machman and I want my son to be about them chesed and klal. And when there's a perfect yeshiva, great. That has all of that for you. There isn't. Very rare. And I had a parent once, this is more in the modern Orthodox realm, that wanted to go to a certain high school. And I thought her son could do so much better in a different high school. And I said to the mother, why do you want to send him to this high school? And she said, because he loves soccer and they have a soccer team. And I want to play on the soccer team. So I said, Mrs. Goldstein, I love your son, Yankee. He's not making MLS. He's not making the majors in soccer, right? It's not going to be his career. He loves soccer. Wonderful. It's wonderful. I said, I'm allowed to say this because I enjoy playing basketball. I grew up playing basketball, so at least I appreciate sports. I said, don't take this too sharply, but choosing a high school based on its soccer team is like choosing a hospital based on its food.
Wow, that's a good muscle.
It's like, what should I go? Should I go to Mount Sinai? Well, no, the kosher food in Colombia is just... So it's just, that's where your priorities have to be in line. And a lot of parents don't get it.
I just want to say that should be the quote for this week's, where they put the ad. That is an awesome line.
Just make sure it's by my face, not by yours.
Yeah, I'll take it. That one you can put by me. That was a good one. Wow.
By the way, they went to that high school because he was on the soccer team, so they didn't listen to me. I was the Rebbe, not the Manal, so maybe I wasn't as powerful back then. But I think that's one of the things that parents who are not in the field, and we are, so we see the results of certain Mesivtas, of certain high schools, and we have to educate parents on the consequences of, I really value this hashkafa, but the yeshiva that you're going to, that because of the fact they have an amazing English, I know that's obviously a big issue, conversation, But also the boys that go there are in a different Ramah, are not as well into learning, and we have to pick. We have to make these choices that are difficult and challenging and will be left frustrated because there isn't a perfect system.
It's true, and it gets really complicated when you're out of town because, we're lucky we have one Mesivta here and it's wonderful, but to think that it's for everyone is unrealistic. So you're really forced to really think about Rosh Shmuel and the importance of staying home. And we've had great Hatzlacha with kids go away. We have Hatzlacha with kids stay here. We've had the opposite of Hatzlacha with kids who go away, and we've had the opposite of Hatzlacha with kids who stay here. So
right.
it's not. So,
I do think it's important to note, because I get phone calls from the realities that Grushas and Almanas who are very nervous about their kids in high schools. They'll call me when their son's in 7th grade, could we come meet? And I'll say, my pleasure. I'm just telling you one thing. Don't come to meet me now, because the conversation about your son at the end of 7th grade is an entirely different, potentially, conversation than Hanukkah 8th grade. And I was an 8th grade Rebbe for 9 years. And when I had the parent-teacher orientation, my opening message to the parents was, I know this is a high school year and a Mesivta year. However, I do not let the H word or the M word exist in my class until Hanukkah. Because my goal is, as a Rebbe, that whatever your son is holding right now, in 3-4 months from now, he'll be a different kid.
Right.
And so why already get into a certain zone and why already get into a certain pretense of where he's going to go? It happens every year, every single year, where kids are holding in a certain level and all of a sudden, boom, they jump up. It happened this year. A parent called me and said, I want to go to Yeshiva X. What does my son need for the next 3 months in order to be ready to take it to Tahara there? That's a very proactive parent.
I mean, there is something to be said, at least in Houston. I could speak, again for Houston, but it's probably relevant to other places also, that our school is not really ready to prepare kids for Philly, Long Beach, Scranton, whatever, on its own. You really do need, in the end of 7th, beginning of 8th, to have a tutor, to someone make sure you do all the taisas.
Right.
Well, most of the standards are more. And if you anticipate that, and parents who do that, the kids do fine. But if you anticipate wanting to jump sort of lanes a little, because you have to realize the kids from Houston are competing against kids who have 25, 30% more Limudei Kodesh time between extended day and Sunday and all this stuff. Although we have school on Sunday, but it's not as much as some of these other places. And they're just, the hours of exposure they have to Gemara is just less. So there is something to be said about preparing early. I wouldn't say to pigeonhole your kid into a certain place, but if someone does want their kid to go to a certain Mesivta and the school is not going to naturally prepare them, although I've been told, you could tell me if this is true or not, and we could actually, this is a good question, Rabbi Bogart. I've been told that almost everywhere, kids who are aiming for the top tier need to prepare outside of Mesivta.
I would tell you what I did as a Rebbe. I had boys in YBH going an extreme range of Mesivta's even capabilities. And so Shara Torah was the yeshiva, was the top yeshiva a lot of boys wanted to go. So, and what I would do.
You went there, Rabbi.
I did learn in Yeshiva Punk. I haven't.
Nice.
So
it's not a flex if your friend points it out. Go ahead.
So every Shabbos in Tahara season, I would have like a chabura in that I live locally. So anyone who wanted to prepare for Tahara level, high level, whether you want to go to Philly, Shara Torah, Long Beach, those type of yeshivas, you meet in a shul, and every Shabbos for an hour, I would go through the chakiras and the Sechtas Makas and do some taisis and that we missed. So I would fill in the gaps as the Rebbe to prepare them for that Tahara, not at the expense of the rest of the class. And we do that now. We do that now in the Yeshiva Tam Manhattan for those that need it. So we're going to continue this conversation now as we bring in Rabbi Bogart. So Rabbi Yaakov Bogart, who is an illustrious mechanech, is currently the Manahal in Tashbar in Lakewood and is a part of the head staff in Camp Aliyah in the summer. But it is a pleasure to have Rabbi Bogart join us. Shalom Aleichem. Rabbi Bogart, how are you?
Aleichem Shalom. Thank you for inviting me on to your podcast.
So Rabbi Bogart, one thing, I think you taught high school also, right?
I did. When I started my career in TA of Baltimore, I taught 12th grade for 5 years. Then I was in YT of Staten Island. It doesn't exist anymore, but I was there in 12th grade for 2 years. And then I was a Skan Menal in Shari Torah, Rabbi Haber's yeshiva in Brooklyn.
High school?
High school.
Oh, so wow.
11th grade, I taught with Kias and Chumash and was the Skan Menal. And then I went to Yeshiva Tana of Psayik as a 6th, 7th, and 8th grade Menal, and now I'm in Tashbar free.
Wow, so you do have a good perspective there.
Me and Rabbi Bogart, actually, we once had a conversation. Remember this, Rabbi? In Roma, we were in Roma for a couple of summers. We dabbled in having a conversation about opening a Mesivta. Do you remember that?
Mm.
Yes. And you're from Atlanta?
Conversations many times, yes.
You're from Atlanta, right?
Yes.
Oh, so there's an Atlanta.
Rabbi Garfield, you were a Rebbe in Atlanta, correct?
Yeah, ninth grade Rebbe and assistant manal for 10 years, 10 fun-filled years. So.
Wow, okay.
So, Rabbi Bogart, when a parent calls you, I know Lakewood, I know the Seder in Lakewood is different. When the Mesivta season, when it starts, but leaving that aside, a parent calls you now and says, Rabbi Bogart, I'm going into the summer of 8th grade, right? My son's going to, I don't know, one the Ruach Chaim, he's going to Achim, he's going to Aish. And
Aliyah, I would have mentioned Aliyah, but
of course. I don't want to put the pressure. And
we never fail. I don't think we've had an episode without an Aish shout out, by the way. Just want to put that out there. He somehow slips it into every conversation. Okay, continue. Sorry.
So
go ahead.
Is there anything I can do over the summer? What, like, it's my Bechor, and I'm so nervous, and I know that in Lakewood, everything is so competitive to get in. What can I do to get my son ready? He's a regular, nice boy. He's a good boy. Help me prepare for the
7th to 8th. You're talking about 7th to 8th.
Yes.
That's a great question. I would tell him, have a great summer. Shteltsuda camp. Do what you're supposed to do. Be a good boy in the summer. And don't think about Mesivta or 8th grade yet. Just have a great summer. That's what I would say. I don't think there's anything he needs to do. Unless, but I would say, if there's a deficiency that's already recognized. Let's say he struggles with Kriya, or he's just not getting Gemara. He's not chopping Gemara at all. Then in the summer is a great time during learning groups to hire a Rebbe to be able to give that extra enrichment to get him a better start for 8th grade. But a boy that doesn't have that issue, it's just steltzu, be part of the camp, do what you're supposed to do, make a good name for yourself, and have a great summer. Does that make sense? Do you hear that?
Sure does. Would you say generally the boys, and this isn't a Tashbar discussion, I don't know anything about Tashbar, but in general, would you say that the kids get to places they want to go to?
You're talking about getting into Mesivta.
Yeah. Do kids generally get into the Mesivtas that they want to? Or is there a lot of disappointment in the process?
No, that's a great question. Ruba de Ruba are going to get into where they're supposed to. I'll tell you why.
You didn't say where they want to. You said where they're supposed to.
Okay, so I meant by the time the Feher process starts, where they kind of know what they're in for, and they get into those choices. What I mean by that is, if the Manal and the Rebbe and whoever else is involved, the Rav, whoever it is guiding the parents, and the parents are also attuned to what's best for their child, then they're going to pick from the gamut of those 3-4 yeshivas that really he has a good chance of getting into, that will service him, that are the right fit. And in which case, of those, most often he will get into one of those.
Are parents realistic?
It's a very good question. I've had some shocking stories. 99% parents are very in tune and realistic with their children. What is the right place? And they're open to listening, and they're open to guidance from their Manal or their Rebbeim. That's what I find, 99%. But I've run into some strange examples where a person in camp is still waiting on the Mesivta that they really want to send them to.
Meaning after 8th grade?
Yeah. I said, you thought El's in 2 weeks. What are you talking about? This happens with my brother-in-law. My brother-in-law is in charge, is in Scranton. He's now the yeshiva in Scranton, right? We're thinking about sending him to Scranton. That's really where we want. I called my brother-in-law right away. He said, I don't know, what are they talking about? Back in December, I told him it's not okay yet. It was like 3, 5, 7 levels below that. And they're still holding that on to the pipe dream in August. So that was extremely strange. But that's generally not what happens. It's generally not what happens.
How do you deal with, Tashbar? I know it's in Lakewood. So the range of the level of learning between, again, I don't want to name, even though, and then you name them, but the highest level to the lower level, and your 8th grade Rebbeim, how did they teach to the top? How do you deal with, my son's in 8th grade, will he get enough Taisvis? I know in Lakewood there's more Taisvis than other places. Will he get enough? Will he be overwhelmed? How do you balance being an 8th grade Rebbe with getting him into Slamowitz? See, I dropped
it's a fantastic question. And I'll tell you, it's interesting. When I was in Pseik and now in Tashbar as well, we did the following. The main shiur, what the Rebbe is doing in the classroom, is Gemara, Rashi, Tosfos. His way of teaching has to kind of be shavel l'chol nefesh. Obviously, there's brighter guys that are getting it right away, and there are boys who are struggling to understand the Tosfos. Obviously, there's the top and the bottom. But the Rebbe is not going off into Rabbi Akiva Eiger and the whole cheshbon and the ksois.
He's not?
He's not. He is not, and we don't want him to. And in my experience, both in Seik and Tashbar, that was not done.
Is it done in other places?
On purpose, so that you do not lose those kids. Now, those kids, they may struggle with Tosfos and the Gemara, but they're not being totally left out like they have no shaykhs. We never do that.
And the parents aren't Rabbi Bogart, but the Lakewood Cheder is learning.
Our boys are sought after just as much as the other yeshivas. I don't buy into that at all. They don't lose out at all. And what we do offer is, in Seik we did it, and I brought that to Tashbar as well, that we have an extra mefarshim shir. So on Tuesday nights after yeshiva, totally optional, we'll have 30 to 40 eighth graders staying. And I get to feel like I'm Rabbi Moshe Grylak. I come in, they have recorders, and I say a shir, and they write it down, and they're in, and it's totally optional. And then they can fly because this is not, the boy doesn't want to come, and we don't make a whole big thing about it during the day. It's not like, oh, you're left out, you're the loser because you don't go to mefarshim shir. It's a nice quiet thing after yeshiva. The boys who want to gain from that.
That's
so they're hearing.
That's a really beautiful idea.
They're hearing the chakiras, like you were mentioning a second ago, what you did in shul with Makis. They're hearing that those inyanim.
And it doesn't create a pressure. The yeshivas aren't asking whether do you go to the Tuesday night. It doesn't create that pressure for the kids to go.
No, I don't know whether they know about it. The boys who go to the top tier yeshivas are able on their faher to share that havana and to share those added pieces that they always come away looking good.
Do yeshivas need you, or do you need the yeshivas? Do they come to you and say?
Very interesting. Very interesting. In Lakewood now, believe it or not, we had on our list, there are 50 yeshivas.
50?
50. And I'm not including Hassidic places. I'm not including a whole world of Hassidic places, which I don't know about. But there are 50.
So do they come to you with the sales rep, with the mug and the magnet, and they say,
no, I don't know. I get no kickback.
Yeah, how does it work? I mean, how do you know about all 50? How do you learn about them?
So that's great. My rebbeim will go out and check them out. I'll go check them out. Mm-hmm. Also, once at the beginning, when they first start, they'll come down and talk to us. They'll come multiple times. The person in Yeshivish will come down multiple times. Often you could tell right away, you kind of have a sense, this guy has it or he doesn't have it. And I've seen people who wanted a certain niche, they served that purpose, and they were fantastic. I feel like in Lakewood, I'm just speaking for Lakewood. Lakewood right now has the full gamut. Top, highest level, most right wing in terms of, Frumkeit and all that, all the way to lower level and a little more mainstream or less stark, whatever you want to call those words. There's a whole gamut, and every kid, I feel, can find a place that he's comfortable in. I think it's amazing, actually.
Well, one of the challenge, I know it's in Lakewood more than other places, but it's everywhere, is if I take him, then my reputation, that game, if I take these two boys, they really fit in my place. But then two other boys said they're not going to come. Like that whole very dirty game.
So part of the one negative result of the Kanai Nahara growth of the community, there's so many kids, the competition so much that this is what I feel like I have to educate parents about. And mamish this point, what used to be when we were kids, right? You're a good kid, you're basically good, you're going to get into a good Mesivta. And you're going to rub shoulders with a big guy and a real smart kid. And there's a variety.
Where'd you go from Mesivta?
I went to Ner Yisrael. Right. I will tell you a story. When I went, I took it for by Yosef Tendler Zeichat Levracha. Okay. It was on Baba Kama. And I think it was Zion Amid Aleph. Okay. And he asked me, I read the Gemara decently. Okay. I was coming from Atlanta. He asked me to read a certain Rashi. I think I did not know a single word in that Rashi. And that was the end of my fair. It was terrible. Okay, I knew nothing. And he basically just asked me, "Are you good in math?" I said, "Yeah, I do very well in math." He says, "Okay, we'll try it out."
Yeah, that will work in your mindset.
That was
Right.
That was the old days. And
That's
what's happened now is since there's Kanaina beautiful boys and such a tzlacha in yeshivas and such a tzlacha with the growth of Klal Yisrael, at least I'm just focused on Lakewood, and I don't know how it is in every place, but I'm assuming there's growth everywhere, and there's so many beautiful kids. Therefore, when they have their 100 or 200 applicants, they are able to choose and cherry pick the best ones that fit their yeshiva. And then, I don't understand, my kid is such a nice kid. He's such a good boy. Why is he not accepted? It's just 3 levels above where your kid is. He's a wonderful kid. And I actually tell parents, you are so blessed with the best kid in the world. He's a mitzuyin in every way. He's wonderful. He tries. He's smart. He's bright. He's davens. He's the best. But he's not going to get into that yeshiva. And that's just a reality. That's a reality. You have to bring parents around to be makir who their son is. And it's not a negative. It's a positive. He's a great boy. But let's put him in a place that fits.
I think there's an important piece to explore here. And it's helpful that you taught at YTT of blessed memory, Zeichel Avram, and Staten Island, because
my brother. You didn't teach my brother, Rabbi, but no, I don't think so. My brother is a graduate of YTT. My older brother.
Well, that's a good example, because what I want to say is back in the day, because I went to Shari Torah in Monsey, which was Rabbi 1110, Shava 1110, 1110. Yeah. So I know the style of a place, and there wasn't a sense that you're a loser by going to a place like that, or that you're you couldn't make it. It was you felt like it was a place that fit you and it was ideal. And the sense that exists today is that if you're not getting into the top tier yeshivas and learning, it means that you're not really such a good guy, A, and B, that the Yiras Shamayim that goes along with it and the sense of pride that goes along with it and all the negative chinuch fallout of that attitude that when a person feels that way goes with it. So when you said there's a full gamut, a full range in Lakewood, can you address the bottom, so to speak, 20%? Are those places that you'd want your child to be at? Are they healthy places where the kids feel good about themselves? Or are they places like Nebuch? We have them, but they're not really great pride places.
So I don't want to speak about any specific moises. I'm a big fan of the vast majority of the moises are amazing. And I feel like once the boy is in the place where he belongs, they have amazing rebbeim, and they make them feel like $1,000,000. I feel like
great.
I'm thinking of it,
That's great. That's wonderful.
No,
they don't see themselves as the Nebuchs, like, I had to go to Yeshiva X because I'm not in the top.
Now, is it possible there would be a yeshiva which is not functioning well, and they don't have it together, and they picked up a few bachrim, and it's not successful? There could be such a thing. But in general, I've seen very, very capable mechanchim who are very proud of dealing with that group of boys, and they make them feel great.
Rabbi Bogart, what do you say to the parent who complains? And I think I know a little bit about Tashbar, so I think you probably have this type of parent body. They're chashiv balabatim. Let's use that umbrella. But Lamaisa, some of them are lawyers, some of them are doctors. They went to school. They're decently educated, and they come to you and they say, "My son is an 8th grader, and I am sending him to," and this is not in a Lakewood conversation. No, Lakewood is a little more extreme, but it's really anywhere in the right-wing Yeshivish Olam. I'm forced to send my son to a Mesivta that is going to take my son away from the hashkafas that I believe in. I'm a Ner Yisrael Talmud. My son won't go to Ner Yisrael. He wants to only go to Achves. So do you feel an achrayus? And I have the same challenge as a manal. I want my Talmud to go here, but that's not the family's hashkafas. It's not, and that's the better learning. But if the boy goes there, he's going to move away from his family.
Okay, that's a great question. I've shared in the past, I don't always do it, but this has come up. I've shared my own life story and just the incredible akaras I had to my parents who did not grow up in the yeshiva setting and were not educated in yeshiva, who were open-minded enough and sensitive enough to what I needed or to what I was striving for, and therefore were supportive of the idea that my child can go beyond where I went. I want my kid, and I share this with parents, I don't want to handicap or limit my children. I want to have them full opportunity. I want them to have the opportunity to be the biggest Rosh Yeshiva or to end up living in Eretz Yisrael, sitting and learning Yom and V'layla. A person who can see that their child shouldn't be inhibited by their limitations and go beyond that, I think is amazing.
Do you think it's your bias as a manal to fight the parents? Like I have a Rebbe who called me recently, and he's like, ois mensch. He's like, I have a kid. He's a Metzuyin Atzam. You should go. Like, and I'm not going to say names of yeshivas. Please stop me, Rabbi Garfield, if I do. And he's like, I want my son to go to this. And his parents, because of their hashkafis, don't want, because the English there isn't good, and therefore they want to. And he's like, they're going to be mazik the kid. He wants to know the zivarech. He wants to call the parents. He wants the manal to get involved in terms of pushing a parent
right
outside their hashkafic, zone. The parents are Modern Orthodox, so they want the kid to be a Modern Orthodox yeshiva. And Lakewood, you don't have that.
Right. That the idea. Listen. Bottom line is the parents. It's their child, right? So I feel like if you're able to and share with the beautiful nachas they will have and bring them into your thinking, that would be amazing. But in the situation where they're not being brought into that, if they are makbid, he's going, we are this is where our children have to go, then you know what? Then maybe respect their opinion, let them go there, and the boy will still outstride the place and end up moving where he's supposed to go.
A chashav mechanech in Passaic, Rabbi Bogart once told me, you know what it is, but I won't say it. He said, I'm happy at the fact that there's very few yeshivas in Passaic. It's growing maybe, because it forces the kids to dorm to get away from their parents. This person who was like the parents are gavaldik here, but there's some of them are bali tshuva, and I don't want them home. This is a big mechanech in Passaic who wanted to keep the amount of yeshivas in Passaic less to force kids to leave their parents.
Listen, this is delicate stuff, and it's individualized, and in each case. And I'm sure the parents that are listening right now do not appreciate being told that the Menalim know better than them. And we're all B'nai Torah trying to do our best, trying to please the Rebbeinu Shalom.
Do the Menalim know better than the parents?
What?
Do the Menalim?
Well, I had a parent came into my office once and told me, "You guys have never left school. You don't know anything about life."
What do you mean? We go to camp. What are you talking about?
Right. So by definition, since you're still sitting by a desk inside of yeshiva, by definition, you absolutely know nothing about life and have no business telling anybody anything. But I think most parents don't agree to that. And I think, Baruch Hashem, there's tremendous mechanchem in the classrooms and running yeshivas. I think parents respect the opinions of the mashpiyim that they've sent their children to be in their charge, and therefore want to hear what they have to say often and would buy in to something that resonates, that's reasonable, that makes sense, that's about bringing their son up to be the Ben Torah that potentially he's supposed to be. I don't think anything against it, unless they're real, very negative or very, very opinionated. But most people are very makablam.
I know
that. Do you agree?
I know. Yeah. I think we're not arguing too much, which is boring. But I know in the girls' high school, this is a bigger issue. I think maybe not. How often is it by you that it's April, May, June, and you have how many eighth graders do you have in Touch Bar in general?
79.
How often is it Pesach time and there are kids not still in?
No, they all get it. It's very interesting how, I don't want to go into the whole Lakewood Faher season system. It's a topic b'fnei atzmai, and I've invested a lot of kaiches into it.
It's wild.
Yeah. Listen, there's a lot to be said how positive it is and the negative sides of it, whatever it is. It is what it is based on so many people. But within a day or two, everyone is placed. That's
really?
How it is. Yeah. Within a day or two, everyone is placed.
Oh my!
It's an incredible thing. Now, let me tell a story that kind of brings the other side of things. There was a boy who his mother said, "I think the best Rebbe for my son is this person. He's the Menal, and he's the 9th grade Rebbe of a certain yeshiva. That's where I want him to go." Okay. Now, his son, that boy was in 8th grade, not up to going to that Mesivta, and maybe there were 3 or 4 boys also trying to get into that Mesivta that were, say, higher on the totem pole of ability and everything and more likely to get in, and they weren't getting in. And matter of fact, we went down to the house of the Rosh Yeshiva 12 at night to try to bang in, get him in, one of the higher boys, and we were having difficulties. I told his mother, it's not Nogea. He's not on borderline. He's the Vadi No guy. So what are we doing? I'm very pragmatic, you know what I mean? So, no, that's where he's going. That's the best Rebbe. He loves him, and he's the best. He knows him from camp. This is the Rebbe he has to learn by. At that point, I kind of pull my hands back and say, listen, this woman has her own, parents have a right to do that. I think I think she's doing the wrong thing, but she has a right to do that. So I said, our hishtadlus is kind of done. Where we think what they're obeying, what I think is no longer relevant, you're doing that. I hear, kol hakavod, I hope you pull it off. And she did not stop begging this Rosh Yeshiva until Pesach. He was not in from whatever it was, Shvat, till Pesach, he wasn't in, crying, and he was accepted.
Wow.
Now, what was the end of the story? He did wonderfully there. Hitaka did wonderfully.
Because most kids can do wonderfully.
They built a beautiful bacher. So I don't know what the lesson of that is. The lesson of a mother's tears, of her tefillahs. Were we wrong? Was she right? I don't know what the lesson is. But we right? We were dealing with what we know to make sense and to try our hardest to get him into the right place that fit for him. She had something else in mind and she pulled it off. So I respect that.
What do most
I share that story every year with the parents. I share that.
It's a beautiful story. What do most of us look for? Like, obviously, ability in Gemara Shir. Would you say that's 80%?
That was my
Or is it 50%?
Oh. Okay, listen, he's got to be able to manage. He's got to be able to understand the Shir. He has to be able to learn chavrusas with the other guys.
Like the learning. Learning is
a lot more is that. The whole persona of the guy, the whole personality, the whole boy comes across. Mm-hmm. You know, what's his attitude? Does he look like he's eager and is a cheshik to learn? You know, that's going to be a major factor in getting accepted. A boy has a lot of cheshik, who the Rebbe just raves about his cheshik. How could a Moshe not want someone who has such cheshik like that?
What do you do with the kid who's like that in Limudei Kodesh, and Limudei Chol, he's a terrorist?
But he's not. There is no Limudei Chol in Lekos. There's nothing to worry about.
There's no Limudei Chol?
No, not in Mesivta.
No, it doesn't matter because the Mesivtas still provide that form for the English principal to fill out. Of course. It doesn't matter whether they have English or not. Maybe they have 40 minutes of English, they have 30 minutes of English, they have some afternoon program. They want to know how the boy behaves.
So how much would that play in? Let's say the boy is like really good in Kodesh, like really. Balmidois, a mensch.
Right. And he's a Bildachai in the afternoon, makes trouble. Yeah. And that's going to come across on the English principles thing.
Yeah.
And he's not going to get in. So
really?
I believe that. Why do they want to deal with a person who doesn't have good meters? So it's a very crucial thing. And we will do our best to minimize if we forgot to include that paper in the application. You know what I'm saying?
Yep, I know exactly what you're saying.
Let's keep it between us. I don't want everyone to hear.
Right, no one should hear this. But no, the point is we try our best. Listen, I have to say one more story. It's a great story because I think it's important parents understand the Rebbe, the Menal, everyone in the yeshiva is trying their best to make your son look like $1 million. Everyone is obviously bringing out his milas. No one's accentuating his chesronis or his, the trouble. And you're not lying to yeshivas, but you're putting his best foot forward in your presentation. I'm going to just say an amazing story where sometimes this gets mixed up for parents. A boy comes into the faher. The manal is very nice. Unlike some other situations where they kind of let you know on the faher that you have no chance and they're looking at the watch and they're right, which I've heard this from maybe in other settings. That does not happen, at least in Lakewood or any yeshiva that I know. I know my father-in-law is great in yeshiva, Chaim Bressler. Every boy comes out feeling like $1 million. Okay, will he get in? We don't know if he's getting in, but he's a great boy. This Rosh Yeshiva was so good at making this boy feel good. Wunderbar, gewaldig, wow, so nice. And he shook the hand so warmly, and he said to the father, we'll be in touch. I just will check with yeshiva, but such a beautiful boy. This is such a great boy. And they left. What was their impression?
That he's going to get in.
He's going to get in. But the Manal had mentioned we have to just check with
ouch.
Now he didn't get in. He got rejected.
They blamed you, of course.
So what happened? Of course, the Rebbe, Rabbi Bogart, someone's out to get this kid. Someone messed this up because we pulled it off and they messed it up. And what was the reality? What really happened behind the curtain? What happened?
The yeshiva's about me.
As soon as he left the fair, the Rosh Yeshiva called me up, or the Rebbe. I don't remember, was it me or the Rebbe? How did you send such a boy to take a fair by me? This was 3 levels below what we're taking.
Oh, you'll be laughing.
Now, he did a beautiful job making him feel like $1 million, but he had no havamina of taking him. And Fakir, the Manal and me were convincing him how he should take him. But what did the parents see? Right. What did the parents see? Yeah. So that's just an interesting story. Just that you never know what's going on behind the scenes. Behind the scenes, I believe that your Manal and your Rebbe is fighting for your child. I don't believe there's anybody's not doing that.
Do you give mock fairs in yeshiva? We do that by us, that every kid I make believe. My goal is that my faher should be scarier than whatever faher you go to.
Right. That's a great thing. I had 79 boys. I did give one-on-one fahers sometime before that, and maybe called in some other boys just to make sure. So I tried to, but it probably wasn't as effective as I would like.
We have a little less than 79 boys in our 8th grade in Yeshivish time in Manhattan. So
I want to tell you something. What we used to do in Msek was amazing. Rabbi Rosenzweig used to help arrange this. We had Rabbanim from town. Okay, we had Rabbi
Rabbi
Zupnik. You had Rabbi Stern, Rabbi Shalom Stern. Rabbi Laser Breslauer.
Laser Breslauer would come.
Yes, you had. Wait a minute, I'll tell you more. You had Rabbi from the Aguda.
Rabbi Sachs. Oh boy,
Rabbi Sachs was known. He can give the faher without a Gemara, right? He would do Baal Pet Taisus. He doesn't need a Gemara. It was fantastic. So that was nice. I have not worked out something like that.
And it's amazing by us, and that we do it. Again, we have a small yeshiva, so I can. And I happen to know year to year what the questions they're asking the fahera, you know, the type. And we do that, a real mak faher. You sit down and make believe, and and one thing I warn the boys is they're not going to faher you on Navi, but they're going to ask you what Navi you're learning. Because I know of two boys, the Psei boys. They went to a faher in a certain yeshiva. They were classmates, and the Rebbe said to them, what Navi learning? And the kid said Shmuel Beis. Okay, boom. Next kid comes in, he says, what Navi learning? And he says Malachim Aleph.
Right.
And the second kid was wrong.
Right.
And he didn't get in because of, you better.
Okay, great story from YTT days. Great story. Torah Moshe came, and Rabbi Abramowitz gave the faher in Gold Learning, and Rabbi Fishman, the Mashgiach, gave the faher in Yedias Klalius. Rabbi Fishman came out, he said, listen, this boy, I asked him which story happened first, Hanukkah or Purim?
Right, the famous trick. Right.
And what did the boy answer?
And the kid probably answered that Hanukkah happened first.
I'm not so good in Chumash.
No.
So you need to be a little more aware than that. But that's from going from high school to Mesivta.
I want to put out there for all of our listeners, I took a bechina with Torah Moshe.
Yeah.
So they have to know all the trick questions. Now they know that one. And the one they asked me was, what are all the Sfarim Rabbi Yosef Cairo wrote?
Oh, very good.
Yeah, okay.
You have to know the Shulchan Aruch, the Mishnah, the Mishnah, and the Avkas Rachel.
Right. Okay,
I cheated the guy in front of me.
Now they have to change all their questions. I once did that. Rabbi Licht and Shara Torah. I know a lot of the Shara Torah questions. Rabbi Licht was screamed that. Tell Rabbi Schonfeld to stop giving you the answers.
A Manal in Lakewood told me this, that he can tell which kids are just working off what was prepared with them.
Yeah.
And who got really, really understood it.
Beautiful.
I want to say another thing about 8th grade. We don't put pressure. We don't even say the M word. We don't talk about it until mamash before. And I tell parents also, 8th grade is not about getting into Mesivta. 8th grade is about being the best bacher you can be. Yep. And the Mela, you'll be the guy to get into Mesivta.
100%.
It has two negativities if you just make it about Mesivta. One is it's way too much pressure. And two is, as soon as he gets in, what's the point of learning? Because that was never my entire goal of 8th grade was just to get into Mesivta.
We both have a shaykhs there by Pechter in Riverdale, right? We both were part of the koil there. You were the first koil there. So when I started my career in chinuch, so our Pechter told me, don't become an 8th grade Rebbe. Become 7th if you have a choice. Because in 8th grade, once they get into Mesivta, you lose them for the rest of the year. That's what he said to me. So I, Baruch Hashem, taught 8th grade for 9 years. And one of the reasons when I came to yeshiva and I'm makbid to teach makas was that we finished the Masechta, so that keeps the drive going.
Very good, very good. Parents have complained to me and that's an issue why some feel the Mesivta process should take place after Pesach, just to get it going a little later in the year.
Wow.
But listen, the good boy, a good Rebbe, there's a ruch of learning the whole year. It's not the same intensity, that's 100% true, but it still could be good the whole year.
Other than Gemara and Midos, are there any other high-level factors like yichus, money, siblings?
No.
What are the other
that's a great
factors besides learning and midos?
Well, you can't help yichus, money, or siblings as the yeshiva, right?
I found this a few times in Mesivtas, okay? And Mesivta is not going to compromise their Mesivta based on yichus and money and mess up the Mesivta with a boy that mamish does not belong there. I've seen it. The pull helps when he's in Yana, when he's in the parsha, and he could make it there, and he could be matzliach there, and it's going to work there. But there's a whole bunch of kids up above him, so then maybe the push and the pulling and the connection and the money helps that out. But to go say that all the classes are created based on yichus and money is just the sheker. It's not true. The yeshivas are setting up their yeshiva based on what's going to be matzliach in their yeshiva for their rebbeim, for their type of boys. That's what they're doing. Yes, there's a few boys that get pushed in, one or two or whatever it is, whatever that number is, that are in Yana maybe wouldn't have gone in and they had that extra fall. I don't see it as like some sort of it's a rigged system or something like that at all. I don't see that at all.
You know, as a manal that feels that achrayus to help boys get in, I think that when you have connections, and it takes years to build up these connections with the meisters, with the mesivtas, push really helps. When the manal calls and calls again, and I mean, boy has to be shaykh, like I said, Bogart. But at the end of the day, if you have a kid and you really fight for that kid, and you believe that he'll be matzliach there, and you have a good relationship with the mesivta, very often he'll get in.
Right, you know, I believe that also because if you're emes with them, if you develop a true relationship, then they can trust you. That you're not selling them the Brooklyn Bridge, but he's actually a boy. It might be a little struggle, but hey, we've always sent you such great boys. We helped start your yeshiva, or we remember that year we sent you those 3 mitziyonim, this and that, and this boy's going to do well. Please, I think they will work with you. So I
once had a chaver that tried to get his son into his Shara Torah, and he tried to get him into yeshiva, and Rav Kalman Epstein didn't take the boy. And the father said, "But I once did you a favor, a huge favor did for Rav Kalman." I don't want to say that the favor was, because then people know who it is. So Rav Kalman said back, he said, "That was a personal favor. I don't own the yeshiva. Asking me to, because of a personal favor, to let a boy into the yeshiva is me'ila b'hektish."
Wow.
If he did a favor for the yeshiva, it's a karsatoy inside the yeshiva. But I have personal karsatoy for you, so I should take it out of the yeshiva.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
I think Ner Yisrael in Baltimore is just one of the things that they work really hard to do and are very proud of, is taking a few kids who are chutz l'machana from like crazy places like Atlanta. And
true.
Rabbi Bogart, are like their dream.
I'm a product of that.
You benefited from that hashkafa, which is harder to do in today's age. I know it's getting harder and harder because people have less patience for other than they had. But they really try.
Rabbi Garfield, you are so right, and I don't have any answer to that question. Meaning, Ner Yisrael, Rabbi Tendler always set up, there was the Hachana Shir, Rabbi Friedman, there was Rabbi Eiskraut, and there was the higher Shir, and then even in 10th grade, there was, kind of a, right? And then if you don't make it in by 11th and 12th, okay, then it didn't work out, right? But he was willing to give that a shot. He was willing to give so many.
And like so many people, Rabbi Frand, where is he from? Seattle or something? Right. Yeah. Or Tzvi Berkowitz is from San Francisco.
He really is? It's from
San Francisco. Yes. And there's another one from Memphis, Rabbi
Nachum Lansky.
Right. So they some of the real Chashuva people came from the attitude, but it is harder today. So
listen, one of the best, he's still learning, is Rabbi Ezra Slatchaber.
Yeah. Charlotte, South Carolina, right?
Yeah, he's still sitting and learning. He's a goyim. But that was an amazing thing that no one will ever be able to replicate what Rabbi Newberger, Rabbi Teller did.
Well, I will say Rabbi Simcha Cook is doing a decent job.
They're doing a great job. This legacy, what they created of taking...
Rabbi Bogart, do you know Rabbi Garfield's relationship to Rabbi Simcha Cook?
His son-in-law, right? I love Reb Simcha. He was Coach Chabura, actually. When I was in 12th grade, we said Chaburas, or maybe first year base Medrash. It was Meir Ranberg, me, and David Rifkin, maybe, and Daniel Lipner, maybe. And we had Rabbi Cook was our Rosh Chabura. It was very, very geschmack.
But he talks about how it's very much on his mind to try to continue that legacy, but it's getting hard. And
guys from Mexico, guys from all over.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Great, crazy stories. Guys who just were Megayer shortly before that were sent by whoever they were, sent to Rabbi Tendler to take him in. Wasn't there someone, Purton? What's his name?
Mark Purton. Yeah, he was a Boy Scout from Pittsburgh, maybe. I don't know.
Read the Rabbi Tendler book. I mean, the Rabbi Tendler book itself is full of it. It's full of these stories.
Well, thank you, Rabbi Bogart. This is really great, and we feel we've explored some of the major issues, and it's great to know that someone's out there doing the work you do the way you do it, because it sounds like...
Thank you. It's my pleasure. It's an honor to be asked to be on the
Thank
podcast.
You. All right, all the best.
Take care.
Have a wonderful day. Thank you for joining us on the Learning Curve podcast.
Find more on this and other topics at mishpacha.com.